Hello everyone and welcome back to the Basics of SQL video series where we teach you how to learn the basics of SQL. In this video, we'll be going over the toolbars and learning what the Object Explorer can help you with. Okay, let's get into it. First things first, I will say that I don't think that it's worthwhile to go over the top row of tools, which is the file, edit, view, etc. These are just going to be your typical drop-down menus that you'll find in any Microsoft Office application, which I assume by this point everyone has used. So these are just going to be redundant and I don't think it's worth covering. So the first thing that you want to do is click New Query, and once you do that, your third row of toolbars will show up, and this is just the shortcuts for everything that you'll need to do for running your code and placing yourself in the proper database. First things first though, we can start with our new project, add new item, open, and save. So the new project, you can just add a new project. You can do the studio solution. That is, if you click debug, this will show up. This kind of blank solution, it'll be on the right. We can see that a little bit later. This here is just what kind of project you want and what will be in your project. So if I click open, it'll show up on the right, and then we'll do new queries, and your queries will be over here and your connections will be over here. Now the next thing that we'll go over is our open file. This is just your typical open, of course, where if you have saved queries or saved code that you have from older files, you can just open them and see and have a quick open to see your code. So this is from another video, but as you can see, it's just old code that we have saved, and that's all the open file does. Save is self-explanatory. If you hit save, it'll save your current query. And save all is for if you have multiple queries, it'll save them all, and then you can open them all at once in one file. New query, of course, just pops this up. These are all going to be skipped over in this video because these are all different types of file. If I were to click MDX, it would attempt to connect me to the MDX server, which I don't have, and it would open a file that ends in .mdx. Now, all of these are different files, and all of them have different syntax than SQL, so we won't be covering them in this series. But it is important to know that SQL does have these capabilities to run these kinds of files. These are all helped for or used for helping in statistical analytics. Then your next area is going to be your cut, copy, and paste. Just like in Word, cut is Control X, copy is Control C, and paste is Control V. So if we wanted to select all from serial, we can copy it by hitting copy, or cut it by hitting cut, of course, that was cut, Control X, and then if we do paste, it will repaste it, or we could cut it with Control X and paste it with Control V, just the quick keybinds. Now if we do copy, we can paste it again. It's pretty self-explanatory, of course. If you've used Word or any Microsoft Office application, it will be exactly the same as that. Now, these will always be default. These are the solution platforms. That's for your debugging. We'll go over that in a bit. Now, these are also not going to be used. This opens your web browser. This is just your toolbox, so if you open it, see I don't have anything in my toolbox because since this is a basic intro to SQL, the toolbox really isn't used, so you can basically skip this entire part of the row. Now these are undo and redo. This is Control Z, Control Y, as you can see. So if we want to undo our deletion of our select all from serials, we can do that. And then if we want to redo, undo, redo. Pretty self-explanatory. Now this button changes your connection. We won't do that because we only have one connection that we can use. The next part is just going to be our databases, and we'll use serial because we have our data set serial in the serial database. So to code with, or to use that in our code, we would need to have our database selected that the table is in. Execute. You're going to need code for this, so let's do select all from serial and just execute. And that will give us our table serial. Execute just makes sure the code, execute runs the code and gives you outputs. Now if you just want to run the code to see if it works, you can click parse. And it says completed successfully, but it does not give you outputs. So that's always a nice tool if you don't want to, if you're running lots of code and it will take a while, you can always parse it first to see if you have errors. And then once you are error free and it says commands completed successfully, you can execute it and you can get your results properly and quick. Alright, so debugging, I personally don't use it that much because it's difficult to understand how to use and it doesn't help you that much with figuring out what is actually going wrong. So this is what the debugging screen looks like. We don't use it that much because our code is simple, and usually if you just go over your code, you'll be able to see your mistake, and if you run it, either parse or debug, it will at least help you find the mistake, whereas debugging takes a while, is confusing, and can be a much more of a time waste than just going over all of your code. Now, the next few items are just there to show diagrams of how your code runs and works. So if we display the estimated execution plan, it will parse the code, but it will also give you this. If the code works, it'll say query 1, which is this line, and it'll give you how the code was found. So this is a really simple code, so it only has one step. Goes from our select function to our table to find serial. That's all that does. Now query options, we can skip that, and IntelliSense, because IntelliSense is always enabled and you always want to have it enabled, so just leave that. These next three are going to be extra tabs down here next to messages once we run the code, and they will show us an actual execution plan, which will just be this execution plan, and live query statistics and client statistics. Now, let's say we want to select calories from, actually let's do select name from serial where calories is greater than 140. This is just an example to see what happens when you run two queries. and what the execution plan will show you. So if we run this, now we have our live query statistics, our execution plan, and our client statistics right here, these three. And as you can see, the live query statistics, it barely differs from the execution plan in that it says 74 out of 74 and 1 of 1. This just is showing our results, and as you can see, these are the results windows. This is query 1, select all from serial. This here is brought up by when you use your live query statistics. This just really is cluttering your screen, and it doesn't help you or tell you anything, which is why I always recommend to just run with all of these off. They don't help you in any way, and it's just screen clutter and extra tabs that don't assist in your ability to see or view results and understand them. So let's just execute it without them, and look, much cleaner. So continuing on, results to text. I would never recommend this one, but I can show you what it is. Results to text just shows the text outputs for the results as it suggests, and it will only show the first row from select all from serial, as you can see. So the first row is the name of the serial, and it just has the name of the serials. Now this is just the name of the serial where calories is greater than 140. That's from our second query, and as you can see, it's just the name, so it doesn't help you at all, which is why I always just do results to grid. You can visualize it better and see exactly what you want. Results to file. This is exactly as it would say. If you run it, your results will go to a file, and you can open that file and see your results later. This is mostly for if you need to get the files off of SQL or the results off of SQL and put them in a presentation or in a Word document. You can easily do it from here. The next line is going to be comment out a line. You can click it, and as you can see, it just puts 2 hyphens. If you delete them, it's not commented out, or you can just put 2 hyphens without, and it will comment it out again. Now if you comment out one of the lines, when you run it, it will only run the one that isn't commented out, which is the name of the cereal that has greater than 140 calories. And that's about it. This just undoes the comment, the uncommenting. So if we click it, this one, boop, now we run it, and it works. So this is just for lines that you don't want in your code, or you want to skip over, or maybe if you just want to comment and say hello to yourself. Hello. That can just be left out, or you can write at where you are in your code. This is select, this is calories greater than 140, for example. You can write notes to help if other people are viewing your code, or if you are going to come back to it later, you can help yourself remember it later. Now, the next line is the next part is decrease and increase indent. These are just for keeping your code in line. So if you want to increase the indent, as you see, it basically tabs your code. So you just select it. And if you do that, you can select the line. If you don't select it all, it will be on the line where your cursor is, as you can see. And then you can just undo it by doing decrease indent. And that is pretty simple and straightforward, and it's mostly used to block your code off. So if you're using loops or complex code where you need multiple items within each code, you can keep them all in one line. And now we'll go over the best and most useful feature of the Object Explorer, which is your databases. So if we go open the database folder, we can see our serial database in the folder. Now, this is a much quicker and easier way to view our tables. So in the past, we've always just done, let's delete the second query, and we've always just done select all from serial. Now, the quicker way to do that is right-click on your table that you want to see in the database that you want, right? So our database serial, our table serial, and now we can do select top 1000 rows. And as you can see, it shows our top 1000 rows, or in this case, our entire data set, because it's only 74 rows.